So, Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. Ready?
Yeah.
The mole had been working very hard all morning, spring cleaning his little home, first with brooms, then with dusters, then on ladders and steps and chairs, with a brush and a pail of whitewash, till he had dust in his throat and eyes, and splashes of whitewash all over his black fur, and an aching back and weary arms. Spring was moving in the air above and in the earth below, around even his dark and lowly little house, and suddenly he flung down his brush and said, "Bother!" and "Oh, blow!" and also, "Hang spring cleaning!" and bolted out of the house without even waiting to put on a coat, making for the steep tunnel which answered, in his case, to a gravelled drive owned by animals whose residents were nearer to the sun and air. He scraped and scratched and scrabbled and scrooged. Then he scrooged again and scrabbled and scrapped and muttered, "Up we go, up we go." That's right, you saw your sister, didn't you?
Yeah.
Georgie's sister's outside the door.
Yeah.
Until at last, pop! His snout came out into the sunlight, and he found himself rolling in the warm grass of a great meadow. "This is fine," he said to himself. "This is better than whitewash." Jumping off all four legs at once, in the joy of living and spring without its cleaning, he pursued his way across the meadow till he came and reached the further side. He rambled busily along the hedgerows, across copses, finding everywhere birds building, flowers budding, leaves thrusting. As he meandered aimlessly along, suddenly he stood by the edge of a full-fed river. Never in his life had he seen a river before. All was a shake and a shiver, gleams and sparkles, chatter and bubble. The mole was bewitched. By its side he trotted spellbound, and when tired at last, he sat on the bank. As he sat and looked across the bank opposite, a dark hole just above the water's edge caught his eye, and dreamily he fell into considering what a small and snug dwelling place it would make for an animal with a few wants and fond of a bijou riverside residence, when something bright and small seemed to twinkle down in the heart of it like a tiny star, but it could hardly be a star. We're doing a live stream.
Okay,
Really.
just come in to say hello.
Well, everyone who's listening, okay, come and say hello. George, Holly, you going to come and say hello? Everyone's here this morning. We're in the middle of streaming a story to everyone, and Holly came in. No, don't do that. No faces, please, Georgie. Come on. Now, where were we? Yes. When something bright and small seemed to twinkle down at the heart of it like a tiny star, but it could hardly be a star. Then, as he looked, it winked at him. Okay, come and say hello. Hi, baby. Say hello. Come on. Okay, all right. Sorry, everyone. Sorry.
Yeah.
There we go.
This just came.
Yeah, baby Holly's come, hasn't she? You say hello. Say hello. You gonna say hello? No?
Yeah.
Yeah? Say hello. Snotty face. All right, off you go.
But just Daddy.
Yeah, I can't
My daddy
read and hold at the same
my
time.
sister's snotty face.
I did, didn't I? All right, so here we go. Where were we? But it could hardly be a star. Then, as he looked, it winked at him, and so declared itself to be an eye. And a small face began gradually to grow up around it, like a frame around a picture. A brown face with whiskers. Yeah, that's right. You're pointing. No, don't do that. Come on. I'm going to have to minimize that because people don't want to see you looking at yourself. So listen. A brown face with whiskers. A grave, round face with a twinkle in its eye. Small, neat ears and thick, silky hair. It was the water race. The water rat. "Hello, Mole," said the water rat. "Hello, rat," said the mole. "Would you like to come over?" inquired the rat presently. "Oh, it's all very well to talk," said the mole rather pettishly, he being new to a river and riverside life and its ways. The rat said nothing, but stooped and unfastened a rope and hauled on it. Then lightly stepped into a little boat. It was painted blue outside and white within, and was just the size for 2 animals. And the mole's whole heart went out to it at once. The rat sculled smartly across and made fast. Then he held up his forepaw as the mole stepped gingerly down and, to his surprise, found himself actually seated in the stern of a real boat. "This is a wonderful day," he said, as the rat shoved off and took the sculls again. "Do you know, I've never been in a boat before in all my life." "What?" cried the rat, open-mouthed. "Never been in a? You never? Well, what have you been doing then?" "Is it as nice as all that?" said the mole shyly. "Nice? It's the only thing," said the water rat solemnly, as he leant forward and for his stroke. "Believe me, my friend, there's nothing, absolutely nothing, half as much worth as doing as simply messing about in boats. Simply messing," he went on dreamily, "messing about in boats. Messing—" "Look ahead, rat!" cried Mole suddenly. It was too late. The boat struck the bank full tilt. The rat lay on his back at the bottom of the boat, his heels in the air. "About in boats," he went on, picking himself up with a pleasant laugh. "Look here. If you've really nothing else to do on this morning, supposing we drop down the river together and have a long day of it." The mole waggled his toes from sheer happiness, spread his chest with a sigh, and leaned back blissfully into the soft cushions. "What a day I'm having," he said. "Let's start at once." "Hold on a minute, then," said the rat. He looped the painter through the ring in the landing stage, climbed up onto his hole above, and reappeared staggering under a fat wicker luncheon basket. You like packed lunches, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. "Shove that under the feet," he observed to the mole. Then he untied the painter and took the sculls again.
Skulls?
Sculls, yeah, that's how you row your boat. Not the little sculls that you're thinking of. "What's inside?" asked the mole, wiggling curiously. "Well, there's cold chicken inside," replied the rat briefly. "Cold tongue, cold ham, cold beef, pickled gherkins, salad, French rolls, cress sandwiches, potted meats, ginger beer, lemonade, soda water." "Oh, stop, cried the mole in ecstasies. "This is too much." "Do you really think so?" inquired the rat seriously. "It's only when I take on these, and the other animals tell me I'm a mean beast and cut it very fine." The mole had never heard a word he was saying, absorbed in the new life and the scents and the sounds and the sunlight. He trailed a paw in the water and dreamed waking dreams. The water rat, like a good fellow he was, sculled on.
Can I go to the toilet?
Yes, shall we? Okay, so Georgie's gone off to the toilet. So we'll probably pause this for a little bit. Off you go. So, for those that you've been listening on, How about recap where we are? So the mole has just popped out of his home that is underground and made his way to the top. And it's springtime, and the spring has been calling him. And for the very first time in his life, the mole has come to the world and started experiencing it like it's the first time ever. The sights, the sounds, the smells. Keeping in mind that all the mole has ever known is living underground in his beautiful little house. And while he was trying to neaten it and tidy it and spring clean, for those of you that don't know what spring cleaning is, back in the day when the spring came around, it was time to tidy up and throw out all the muck and the dust and repaint and tidy everything up from the long winter slumber. So the spring had called him and he made his way to the river. Georgie's back. So we've got a few more pages, Georgie. Come and sit back here. Come back and join us. Where were we up to? The mole never heard a word he was saying, absorbed in the new life, the scents and sounds and the sunlight. He trailed a paw in the water and dreamed waking dreams. The water rat, like a good fellow he was, sculled on. I like your clothes awfully, old chap, he remarked after half an hour or so. I'm going to get myself a black velvet smoking suit myself one day. I beg your pardon, said the mole, pulling himself together with an effort. You must think me very rude, but all this is so new to me. So this is a river. The river, corrected the rat. And you really live by it? What a jolly life. By it, and with it, and on it, and in it, said the rat. It's my world, and I don't want any other. But isn't it a bit dull at times? The mole ventured to ask. Just you and the river, and no one else to pass a word with? No one else to? Well, of course, said the rat. You're new to it. The bank is so crowded nowadays that many people are moving away altogether. Oh, no, it isn't what it used to be. Kingfishers, dabchicks, moorhens, about all day long, always wanting you to do something. What lies over there? Asked the mole, waving his paw towards the woods that darkly framed the water's meadow on the other side. That? Oh, that's just the wildwood, said the rat shortly. We don't go there very much, we riverbankers. Aren't they very nice people there? Said the mole, a trifle nervous. Well, replied the rat, the squirrels are all right, and the rabbits, some of them, but rabbits are a mixed lot. And then there's Badger. He lives right at the heart of it. Dear old Badger. Nobody interferes with him. Why? Who should interfere with him? Asked the mole. Well, of course, there's the others, explained the rat. Weasels and stoats, foxes, and so on. They're all right in a way, but they break out sometime. There's no denying it, and you can't really trust them. That's the facts. And beyond the wildwood? Asked the mole. The wide world, said the rat. And that doesn't matter. Leaving the main stream, they passed into what seemed like a landlocked lake. Green turf sloped down on either edge, while ahead of them the silvery shoulders of the weir, arm in arm with the windmill that held up its turn, a grey-gabled mill house, filled the air with a soothing murmur of sound. It was so beautiful that the mole could only hold both paws and gasp, "Oh my! Oh my!" Don't you poke your tongue out?
I wasn't.
Okay. We'll have one more page, shall we? And then we'll talk a little bit about the story. The rat brought the boat alongside the bank, made her fast, helped the mole ashore and swung out the luncheon basket. The mole begged to be allowed to unpack it by himself. The rat was so pleased to indulge him and to sprawl out in the grass the rest of the while his excited friend shook out the tablecloth and spread it, took out the mysterious packets one by one, and arranged their contents in due order, still gasping, "Oh my! Oh my!" When all was ready, the rat said, "Pitch in, old fellow." And the mole was very glad to obey, for he'd started his spring cleaning very early that morning and had not paused for a bite since. "What are you looking at?" asked the rat presently, when the mole's eyes were able to wander off the tablecloth litter. "I'm looking at," said the mole, "a streak of bubbles travelling along the surface of the water." "Bubbles? Oh!" said the rat. A broad, glistening muzzle showed itself on the bank, and the otter hauled himself out and shook the water off his coat. "Greedy beggars!" he observed. "Why didn't you invite me, Ratty?" "Such a rumpus everywhere," he continued. "All the world seems to be out in the river today. I came up this backwater to get a moment's peace, and stumbled upon you fellows. At least, I beg your pardon, I didn't exactly mean that." There was a rustle behind them from the hedge, where last year's leaves still hung thick, and a stripy head peered forth. "Come on, old badger!" shouted the rat. The badger trotted forward a pace or two, then grunted, "Company," turned his back and disappeared. "That's just the sort of fellow he is," observed the disappointed rat. "Simply hates society. We shan't see any more of him today. Well, tell us, who's out on the river?" "Toad's out for one," replied the otter. "In his brand new wager boat. New togs, new everything." The two animals looked at each other and laughed. Once it was nothing but sailing," said the rat. Then he tired of that, and he took to punting. Last year it was houseboating, and we all had to go sit and pretend we enjoyed it. It's all the same, whatever he takes up. He gets tired of it and starts something afresh." "Such a good fellow too," remarked the otter. "But no stability, especially in a boat." From where they sat, they could get the glimpse of the main stream across the island that separated them. And just then a wager boat flashed into view. The rower, a short, stout figure, splashed badly and rolling a good deal, but worked his hardest. The rat stood up and hailed him, but Toad, for it was he, shook his head and settled sternly to his work. "He'll be out of that boat in a minute," replied the rat, sitting down again. "Of course he will," chuckled the otter. "Did I ever tell you the story?" A mayfly swerved. Yeah. Did I ever tell you that story? A mayfly swerved at the current, a swirl of water, and a cloop, and the mayfly was visible no more. Neither was the otter. Again there was a streak of bubbles on the surface of the river. "Well," the rat said, "I suppose we ought to be moving on. I wonder which of us had better pack the luncheon basket." "Oh, let me," said the mole. So, of course, the rat let him. Packing the basket was not quite as much of a pleasant job as unpacking the basket. It never is. But the mole was bent on enjoying everything, and although, just when he'd got the job done, he then saw a plate staring up at him from the grass, and then a fork, which anyone ought to have seen, and at last of all, the mustard pot. Still, somehow, The thing got finished at last, without too much loss of temper. So I think we're going to put that there for now.
Yeah.
And then we're going to come back to it tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, did you enjoy that part of the story?
Yeah.
I hope everyone else enjoyed it.
Yeah.
What was your favourite part of the story?
I don't know.
You don't know? Who did you like best? Mole, Ratty, or Badger, or Otter?
Otter.
You liked Otter?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was swimming in the water with all the bubbles, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to say goodbye to everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye everyone. See you tomorrow.
Say see you tomorrow at 10:15.
See you tomorrow at 10:15.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.